had an introduction, but I'm not going to use it. Mark, take the floor, man, and tear it up, man. Go after the wine.
I think it's a bit of both. Gibbs and Gonzalez combined.
They haven't come out yet.
Well, that's what it looks like.
Isn't it great to be with
Do you have some inside information on that?
Well, I see the preliminary notes.
Oh, okay.
How many people here have heard me speak before? Oh, jeez.
New material.
I don't have any new material. Actually, I do. So let me quickly just tell you a little bit about my background for people who are new here, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the strange things going on in Ohio politics today. At the end of 2019, October of 2019, I sold a business I'd been building for over 20 years. And I realized I lived the American dream. Did better than prior generation, who did better than the prior generation, right? That's what we look at, the American dream. And the interesting thing about it, the most poignant thing was, I hadn't thought about it until after I lived it. Because we take for granted that we can do this kind of thing. Start a business, you got the money, you've got the chutzpah, you've got the idea, you've got the backing, and you just go the drive and you just go get it done. Right? Joanna, Tom, running a restaurant, probably some of you are business owners. You cannot do that anywhere else in the world. No matter what the media tells you, I have traveled the world. I lived in Canada for 4 years. I've been everywhere. And you cannot do it. You've got to have the right last name. You've got to have the right payoffs. And in some cases like Canada, the paperwork and the red tape and the regulation and all that just kills you. So we are the greatest country on earth.
That's right.
We are, actually, I think we're the greatest state in the nation. And we can talk about that later. People will argue about that, but we have amazing resources.
I'll agree with you.
People. And we are members of the greatest political party in the universe. And all three of those have been hijacked from us by corrupt, soulless, conscienceless creep. So, I sell my business. I'm FaceTiming with, at that point, my 17-month-old grandson, my first, now I've got two. And I realize if we keep going in the same direction we're going, that child, Calvin, will never have the opportunity to live the American dream like I did. I have lived a great life. My grandfathers were coal miners who I never met. They died of black lung. My mom's dad died when she was 6 years old. And, you know, I came from this lower middle class family, and I grew a business to $100 million in revenue, 800 employees. I created jobs for well over 2,000 people in Ohio. More than all of my competitors in this race combined. And I'm thinking that child will not have the same opportunity I did to do that. And then I saw Rob Portman on TV, and I thought, that guy hasn't done a single thing we sent him to Washington to do. And now we see him as a sellout and a turncoat, standing there with his support of the quote-unquote bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is like 80 or 90% social justice crap. Okay? And he's standing there, and then there's the useless bag of skin, Joe Biden. And, oh my God, the center-right Mitt Romney. You've got to be kidding me. This is unacceptable to me. This is why I am running. Because we need people who are going to speak the truth and stop this nonsense. We are headed in the wrong direction, and we are accelerating the speed at which we're going there. So that's why I decided to run. I decided to primary Rob Portman. No other candidate in this race can say that. Everybody else was afraid of Rob Portman or thought he was doing a good job because they got in the race after he quit. And he quit. They will say, well, he retired. He didn't retire. He quit because he knew the polls said nobody was going to vote for him. The dude was going to lose so badly it wasn't even funny. Now, it wasn't me he was concerned about. It was the general election. I don't have that much hubris to tell you that it was me. So now everybody gets in, right? And they must have thought he was either doing a good job or they were afraid of him because of his money and his clout. And that's not what we need in Washington. We need fighters. We need people who are willing to tell the truth and say the silent part out loud.
Yeah.
And some of you were here the first time I came. I know Joanna and Tom were here. Some of you were here. Ralph was here. He left. But I said, here's my promise to you. I will not lie to you, and I will say the silent part out loud. So here are 4 things you'll hear from me that you will hear from no other Senate candidate in this race. The Ohio Republican Party is corrupt from top to bottom and left to right.
Yep.
Mike DeWine doesn't deserve to be reelected. He deserves to be
In jail.
investigated.
Come on.
Yep.
Rob Portman is not a statesman. He's a sellout and a turncoat. And finally, I'm not vaxxed and I'm not getting vaxxed. They will pull the they will pull the guns out of my cold dead hand, my Smith & Wesson revolver in one hand, and my Glock in the other before they will stab me with that poison.
Come on. Yeah.
I am not anti-vax. I am for medical freedom. God granted us sovereignty over our own bodies. He granted us free will to make decisions on our own.
Yep.
And no man can get in the way of that. They just can't. It's not right. It's wrong. So that's why I'm running, and that's what I believe. We make fun of this now. I've got, if you've listened to our Monday night Truth Bombs, live streams, we make fun of the fact that I've got a 21-point policy gap. I've been talking policy intently for over 2 years. There it is. This is my promise and commitment to you of what I believe, how I will speak, how I will act, how I will negotiate, how I will debate, how I will vote, and how I will legislate in Washington, D.C. You've seen our minivats over here? The wooden minivats? Minivat?
Mechanics today in
Nice.
Lakewood.
So, if I ever go away from this, if I ever vote or do anything that isn't in this guide, you're allowed to bring these bats to DC or wherever you can find me and beat me. What did Monty Python used to say? On Monty Python, beat me about the head and neck with this.
There we go.
But I'm serious. I'm totally serious because we have a truth and character deficit
Yep.
in our politicians.
Mm-hmm.
I had no desire to run. It was not on my bucket list. You can't find this. I'll give you $1 million if you can find a single human being on this planet or in the universe who will tell you I talked about running for office. I was so pissed off in October of 2019 about the future for my grandchildren, it's like, how many people here are grandparents? All right? Here's what I say. Tell me if I'm right. You get between me and my grandkids and their future, I will take you out.
Right.
Because I look at it this way. I'm 63 years old. Let's say my life expectancy is 90. I'm on the last third of my life. It's downhill from here. I'm not going to get healthier. I'm not going to have less aches. I'm not going to golf better. But those children have their entire future ahead of them. I'd gladly lay down my life for them. I love them. Being a grandparent, I mean, being a parent is great, but being a grandparent is spectacular.
You got that right.
I'm not letting it happen. I will fight with every fiber of my being to protect the future for those kids and your grandkids. And I know you would too, but so I've been blessed with the freedom and the financial wherewithal to do this. And I thought to myself, God has blessed me with this. I've had a great life. But I've got to do this because there are people who can't do it. People who are getting an education, people who are raising families, people who are taking care of elderly parents, people who are getting an education, people who are building a business. They could do it. They have the skill to do it because I'll tell you, looking at our 537 elected officials in this federal government, I would say pretty much anybody could do better. We could pull 537 names out of a phone book if we ever had one. If we had one. But you know what I mean. Pull those names out and they would do better than the 537 people that are in Washington, D.C. Because 537 people that got there and had no experience in government wouldn't do anything until they figured it out. We have people who think they figured it out who don't know anything, that are making decisions about our lives.
That's right. Yep.
This is unacceptable to me.
Yep.
Right? So this is me. So you need to, I encourage you to take a look at this and ask my opponents to provide you with their policy guide. You'll be waiting a long time to find something because they appear to be endorsement and money heavy and
That's the
policy
problem.
light. They want to go get endorsements from someone in wherever, Georgia, who's going to tell you how to vote. I think you're smart enough to figure it out yourself, which is why I'm here and they're not.
And it's not $75 a plate to listen to you speak.
Well, that's about $2,900.
Right.
I was gonna say thousands,
That's the
yeah.
max, right? That's the max for primary, and then there's $2,900 for the general.
Right.
And some of my opponents will take checks for both and at the same time, right? In anticipation of.
Yeah.
And you can go out to the FEC website and see all of this. I want to leave time for questions, so I'm just trying to figure out what is. So here's what you're starting to hear about me. He's always angry. Are you?
Aren't we all?
No. I mean, so here's what I'd say. I'm actually not angry. I'm 89%, well, 89% of the time. I feel really good because I've led a great life, and I've got the ability to continue to have that, I think, even with all this nonsense that's going on. But the other part, that people confuse intensity and passion for anger.
Yep.
If they've never been intense or passionate about something.
Yep.
Right? they're either pleased or they're angry. And I think there's a middle ground where you're passionate and you're intense and you can get so involved in something that time goes by and you don't eat. And that's been me as an entrepreneur.
Yep. Totally.
And I support entrepreneurs because the government wants to put small businesses out of business. Because what do small businesses do? An entrepreneur, what do? The first thing they do is they create a job for themselves that makes them independent of the government. And then if you grow your business like I did, you make other people independent of the government. And that's exactly what they don't want. So that's why the guy I call Lockdown Mike First Energy DeWine, that's why he shut down small businesses but allowed Costco and Walmart and others to be open. Because he wants to be able to relate to those oligarchs and only have to manage a handful. It's really tough to manage, several 100,000 small businesses in Ohio, right? And let me tell you, so do you remember Steve Stivers? He was a congressman from Franklin County. So Steve Stivers is like a massive rhino. And like Rob Portman, he knew he wasn't going to get reelected. So he got reelected in 2020, and then within months he quit, which is why Mike Carey had to run. You know Mike Carey?
Oh, yeah.
That name, right? That's why Mike Carey had to run with a special election. Steve Stivers left politics to go to be the president of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Who are the biggest proponents of vax mandates in Ohio outside of Mike DeWine? It's the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. This is a rigged game.
Yeah.
So finally, let's talk, and then we'll have to open up for questions here. Let's talk about the Ohio Republican Party. You guys are pretty knowledgeable. You've heard me speak before. You've probably heard. Raise your hand if you realize or you know that there is a $2 million accounting inconsistency in the books of the Ohio Republican Party that Bob Paduchik, the chairman, and Dave Johnson, the treasurer, are trying to keep from being audited by an outside public accounting firm, which is a requirement in the bylaws of the Ohio Republican Party, and it hasn't been done in 16 or 17 years. Who's aware of that?
Wow.
Okay, so this is an awesome crowd, because usually I was in a crowd in Magnolia with 220 or 329 people, like 10 hands went up. They love this. They love an uneducated, unaware, low information voter base, especially about their manipulation and all of that. The other thing they do are primary endorsements, which we are working hard to stop. Primary endorsements are a rigged game. They do a primary endorsement because 80% of Republicans are only Republicans on election day. They get a slate card from the LRP. They believe, like I did, that there was a brain trust at the Ohio Republican Party that was picking candidates, selecting candidates, vetting candidates, encouraging good people to run, grooming them, so to speak, to do a good job. Once I got into this and figured it out, I was disabused of that thinking. It is all about getting insiders who are part of the system elected, or not even elected, to win the primary. They're more concerned about winning the primary than they are winning the general election, so they can have it their way and keep insiders in. So we're working diligently on that. We've worked diligently on fixing education in Ohio in a two-path campaign that we have. One is get elected. Two, leave Ohio better than we found it. So we worked on education. We worked on helping getting citizen candidates to run for school boards. We gave them tools. We I literally berated the Ohio Board of Education in testimony to get them
Yeah, I
to
did too.
overturn this racist Resolution 20. And then we're calling out corruption in the ORP. The money, the endorsements, and then here's the other thing, there's no turnover in state central committee. How many people here know what the central committee structure is? Okay, this is another problem that they keep secret. So there are county central committees and there is a state central committee. Whether you know it or not, you have probably voted in primary elections for county and state central committee representation. Way down at the end of the ballot, you probably get a slate card, you see the name, you just punch the button. These are the people that represent us in our county and our state party. And if you go to the websites for the county and the state, it's very, very hard to understand how to run for these positions. These are unpaid positions. You do like 4 meetings a year. And it takes 5 signatures from someone in your district or precinct to be able to run for these offices. 5 signatures. I've got to get 1,000. This is, you can walk down the street and trip over 5 people. Sign your petition.
Especially in the snow.
So this is the way we take our party back, by getting citizen candidates to run for county central committee's positions and state central committee positions. And I won't go into all the details of what I'm doing personally to fund some of these people to help them out. Not part of my campaign, part of my personal mission to fix the Ohio Republican Party, which is, without a doubt, the most corrupt Republican state organization in the country. There are only a few things we're #1 in, and none of them are good. Most corrupt state, most opioid deaths per capita. Right? But we're losing representation in the House of Representatives because we're not growing like the rest of the country is. So we've gone from 23 reps at one time, now down to 15. We lost another one this census. We are on a going out of business trajectory, and Mike DeWine and people like him are okay with us becoming District 12 in the Hunger Games. And that to me is unacceptable. So I'm Mark Paquita. I need your vote. I want your vote. More importantly, I need you to talk to other people about me if you support these policies. Because I am battling, Matt Dolan just dropped $10.5 million of his own money in this campaign. Mike Gibbons put $10 million in. Bernie Moreno's put $3 or $4 million in. Jane Timken's got more money than, God. J.D. Vance has $10 million from Silicon Valley. Josh Mandel has money from Club for Growth. You don't get money from Club for Growth and not have a quid pro quo. I'm sorry. Koch brothers aren't that stupid, or the one that's still alive. I'm doing this on my own. We're not really even asking for donations. You can donate if you go to our website. It's mark4ohio.com. Mark4ohio.com. But we are trying to prove that you can run an asymmetric financial and asymmetric messaging campaign and win as a citizen doing it. Because this is the only way we're going to take our country back.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Because we've got a uniparty. 80% of the people in Washington that are in elected office are compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. Mike Pompeo will tell you that. If you go out and listen to his stuff, he'll tell you that. You can read between the lines.
It's true.
Some of them know it, did it intentionally, they need to go to jail.
That's right.
But the rest did it unintentionally. They're so naive, they have no idea they've been co-opted by the Chinese Communist Party. They need to go too because they're just too dumb to be representing us. And we are literally left with a handful of people in Washington. It is that bad. So again, Mark Pukita, P-U-K-I-T-A, sounds like the banana with P, sounds like the power tool Makita with P. We used to do things, but now it's easier. So I gladly take questions.
Is Pompeo compromised?
No, I actually think Mike Pompeo is a patriot, and I think that that's why he's not going to run again, because I think he just won't get anywhere. He's thinking the establishment will just do him in. But I mean, he's, West Pointer, lawyer, was Secretary of State, good guy, head of the CIA. I mean, I think he's a good guy, but
I think so too, but I wanted to get your take.
And who knows? Maybe his wife said enough is enough, right? I mean, that happens.
Mark, it speaks for itself that you stated that both parties in this society is corrupt. Ohio happens to be 3/4 or better, what you said, red. And look what we got. So we need, I stand behind you 100%, and everybody else should too. We need to stop the swamp.
Yeah.
Yes.
So think about this. I mean, this is a great point. Ron DeSantis in Florida has a legislature. Let me put it this way. Mike DeWine in Ohio has a legislature that has a bigger supermajority than Ron DeSantis has in Florida. Look at what Ron DeSantis and that legislature are getting done in Florida, protecting people's rights. They're not perfect, but they do a damn good job. And then look at what we're doing. House Bill 248 is an absolute disgusting disaster. That bill or something very like it should have been passed a year ago. And I will tell you that our legislature in Ohio, they all need to be primaried. I can't even name 5 people who I would want to see reelected in the Senate and the House in Ohio.
That's right.
Mike DeWine has a collar and a leash around them. And when he says jump, they ask how high. They are cowards, they are spineless, and they need to be primaried. Yet many of them will go uncontested on May 3rd or June 7th or July 5th or whenever we finally vote.
Speaking about the Ohio legislators and DeWine, I think they would do better if they had a Republican governor.
Democrat governor.
No, a real Republican.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of the stuff that is in some of these bills that shouldn't be in there is to get that idiot to sign it.
Right. So I thought where you were going, so that's one point, but the other point is, and I say this and like Republican insiders go crazy. I'm like, you know what? Our legislature would be more Republican, more conservative if Richard Cordray had won the election. Because
Wow.
there's no way a Republican supermajority would have allowed Richard Cordray to do the things that they allowed Mike DeWine to do. Think about it. And here's the thing. I was up talking to the Lorain County Tea Party, totally engaged Americans. And I speak about this, and Dick Stein, who's in the House in Ohio, gets up and he agrees with me. I was shocked. He's like, the previous speaker, couldn't use my name, previous speaker, he's actually right. We would be more conservative if Corduroy, that's what he called him, Corduroy. Corduroy, we're governor. And I'm thinking,
little bear going after a button.
I'm sorry, but you spineless coward. You just admitted You're a spineless coward.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, Dick Stein, he's a good guy. He's a real conservative. No, he's not. This is absurd. I'm supposed to believe that a guy that's afraid of Mike DeWine. I mean, this is like. I'm just sorry. I don't get it. I think we're probably the laughing stock of conservatives around the country. They probably look at Mike DeWine and what we're doing here. They're like, oh God, I'm so glad I don't live in Ohio. It's embarrassing to me.
As long as you're going down that road, what I notice a lot of times is we talk about within the field of the Senate candidates. I like this guy, I like that guy, this, I like blah, blah, blah. Give us your take on who could take on whoever you get on.
Such a good question. I believe I'm the most electable of all the candidates in the general election. And here's why. I'm an outsider. I'm not a career politician. I come from a lower middle class family. So if you want to outdo me on poverty and all the rest, good luck. But more importantly, how do I say this? I think that Democrats are finally fed up with being given a lot of promises about how great these bad policies are going to work. They don't. And they see that Donald Trump got them into a situation, lowest unemployment ever, wage growth for the first time in 2 or 3 decades, and they started saying, wow, this guy's got my back. And this is what scares, this is why I think that the Democrats really wanted Donald Trump out, because they thought, holy cow, if we let this happen, we're done.
That's right.
Right? We're done. And it's why they're so anxious for open borders, because that is a replacement strategy for their people they're losing that are coming to the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really want to piss off a Democrat politician in Washington, you use that term replacement. They go crazy because it's true.
Mm-hmm.
They're allowing 200,000 plus people to come across the border a month. Donald Trump had it down to 16,000 people a month. 16,000 with the Border Patrol, no military at the border, like every one of my opponents wants to do. They want to move the military to the border. The Border Patrol can do the job. We give them the right money, we give them the right tools, and we give them the right support. Donald Trump proved it. Why would we move our military there when China's our biggest threat? The Border Patrol is a law enforcement agency. They're designed to apprehend and incarcerate people who break the law. Our military is designed to kill people. These are two very different missions, and I cannot believe that my opponents don't understand that very basic difference.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where we are, because they're pandering for votes. It's red meat. Because if you heard them, you might say, let's go, put the military on the border. But when you thought about it, you went home and thought about it, you go, that's stupid. Right?
Yeah, because once they get past the military, they're going to let them go anyways.
Right. So finish the wall, give the Border Patrol the tools they need, enforce the laws that are in place,
Right.
Don't have prosecutors using prosecutorial discretion, and we fix the problem. But we also get a merit-based immigration program in place. We do our best to pressure Latin American countries to be less corrupt and less tyrannical, so people don't want to leave. But don't go nation build. I'm not a nation builder. We're not sending troops down there. We're just going to put economic pressure on them until the people there understand that their leaders are bad and they have their own revolution, so to speak.
Hey, could you talk about Bob Duchek just for a minute? Could you talk about the Central Committee? I don't know if it's relevant. Meeting coming up. They're trying to shut it off to the public, and what do you know about that?
Okay, so the Ohio Republican Party State Central Committee meets about 4 times a year. The next meeting is February 4th. We have been putting pressure on them at these meetings. We are encouraging people to go. This is your party. You're allowed to be there, or at least you have been. Now that people have been showing up and being vocal, they decided to shut out what they call guests, which are really you, members. We're members of the party.
That's right.
So they'll take your money, but they won't allow you to watch what they do with it. So they were so distraught the last time, they faked that we were abusing them and taunting them and ended the meeting. You can see it. We live streamed it. It's on video. It was total nonsense. It was totally contrived. It was a lie. It was wrong and it was dishonest.
I'm scared.
So there's another meeting on February 4th, and they've decided to close it to the public and live stream it. I think they did that because we bought the room next to them. Like it'll hold 150 people. So I think it's the ballroom split in half. So they take half, we take half. So we're going to be there to welcome them. Come on,
Mark.
You're all invited. Doesn't cost anything.
That meeting coming up
Yeah.
is where they're going to announce which campaigns that the Republican Party is going to back. That's why they don't
Yeah, they're
want us
going to
there.
endorse Mike DeWine.
Exactly.
Right? They're gonna
That's
endorse
exactly
these
why
guys,
right there.
Right, which we're fighting against. So we want to make sure those members walk by us. So we got a room. We're going to live stream it there. We're having a meeting afterwards to talk about what happened and what we're doing in terms of taking back central committees. But you need to come. It will blow your mind at how manipulated, how gamed, and how corrupt this whole process is if you've never seen it. So come down, February 4th, Lewis Center, Ohio, just north of Columbus on 23, Nationwide Conference Center. We got a room there. It'll be a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun there.
Is it rumor or fact that they sent Mike DeWine money for his campaign?
Oh, they gave Mike DeWine and Dave Yost like over $1 million already.
Yeah, I heard it was 800,000.
Well, it's 800,000 for DeWine and then money for Yost
Okay.
and maybe Houston.
Yeah, I knew it was 800,000 for DeWine.
Yeah, they actually did it before those folks said we're going to run again.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give money to candidates who aren't running. And then here's what they did. They backtracked and they said, well, they were candidates before. Okay, so the new thing is if you've ever said you're going to be a candidate, like 4 years ago, we can give you money now, even though we don't know if you're going to run again.
Yeah.
I mean, this is such a rigged game.
So out of the Republicans/Independents in Ohio, what can you imagine that the percentage is that wants Mike DeWine to get Republicans' money?
Oh, I think it's a very small percentage.
Okay, then why do you think the Republican Party would give it to him?
Because
there's establishment right
correct.
there.
Yeah, they're all insiders.
Right, and in the counties too.
Yeah, and they endorse themselves so they get reelected, which is why we have no turnover, no new ideas. And if you look at that central committee, I mean, it's like the Natural History Museum. No young people. Yeah.
What time is that meeting?
Betty Montgomery, I think Joanne Davidson's 92 years old. My 90-year-old mom is like, that is way too old to be on like central committee. It's crazy.
Real quick, we have a person on Facebook Live that says they will match donations to Mark tonight.
Wow.
So they just threw in $100 right now. So
Thank them. The meeting starts. Our meeting starts at 9. Their meeting starts at 10. But you won't have to move because you're not allowed in the room anymore. So you get to stay with us.
This has been mentioned, and I'm wondering if you could maybe offer us a little more direction. I think it's important now, more so than ever, that we.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, I think it's as important now, more so than it's ever been, that we keep our money out of the hands of the big corporate conglomerates and the companies that we don't need. Can you offer any suggestion or direction for how we start building these parallel structures in the county?
Well, probably not any more than you could. So I love what Dan Bongino's doing, right? So he's been an investor in Rumble, an investor in Locals with Dave Rubin, and he's now coming out with an alternative to Stripe so we can get payment processing done and things like that. And we're just going to have to continue to do that. There are like Liberty, there's a Liberty, I forget what the name of it is, but it's like a listing of companies who are, you know, Liberty kind of patriot-owned groups. Does anybody know the
Liberty School? Local Liberty Association.
Local Liberty Association? Anyway, there's a lot of things like that going on. I think over time you're going to see them come together. There'll be a little more consolidation like there needs to be in groups like this with others. Some kind of a loose association at least, so we're at least communicating. But that absolutely has to be done. What Joe is talking about absolutely has to be done. We have to speak with our, like I rarely buy anything on Amazon anymore. I used to buy everything on Amazon. Yeah. I don't buy anything on Amazon. I will pay more at an alternative provider. Like Barnes & Noble loves me now because I'm a big reader. And I'm like, they're like, where the heck did this guy come from? Like, why wasn't he a customer before? Right? And I'm not suggesting they're that much better because they're another big corporation, but they're a hell of a lot better than Amazon.
Could you could you tell everybody about the 4th?
Got 2 minutes.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah. So that meeting is February 4th.
Right.
Friday, February 4th. It's well worth your time, let me tell you. You will feel like you were doing something because we want these people to, we don't want to do anything that's inappropriate, but we want them to feel the heat of the bodies being there.
Is it on your website,
It's
Mark?
on the website, but it's at the Nationwide Conference Center on Route 23, just north of Columbus. So, if you've ever been to the Polaris Mall, the Polaris Parkway, which is 750, is the next intersection north of there on 23. So it's that close to Columbus, like Columbus proper. And we love to have everybody there, Terry.
Is there going to be an injunction over them closing the meeting?
I don't see how that can be. They're not a government entity, so they don't fall under the sunshine laws of the Open Meetings Act. Now, I believe that ethical, character-based kind of moral leaders would want an open meeting, but they don't because they're not that.
It speaks volumes.
Yeah, it speaks absolute volume.
I'm hearing you on the radio.
Yeah,
It's good.
Is it?
But I'm also hearing you're the only one out there doing it. But who is Free Ohio PAC? Who's running the line? Also.
Yeah, I see him on Facebook. He's already got ads on Facebook.
These are all the dark money organizations that are incorporated in Delaware, and some of them, at least one of them we found is not registered.
Okay.
Even Larry Householder, as big of a crook as he was, did all the paperwork to get registered with the FEC.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm hearing your ads are good.
Yeah.
I like them.
Thank you. Have you heard our ads?
Yeah.
I think they're hilarious.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. I didn't come up with them, trust me. But they're hilarious. And there'll be more.
Good.
And we're doing like a video commercial. I mean, it'll never be on TV because we don't have the money, but it'll be on the internet. It'll be good.
So did you have to like sign up with like iHeart Media or just a local radio station when you did that?
No. So we did 2 buys so far with iHeart and Salem.
Okay.
And now next month we're probably going to do buys with all the smaller radio stations like in Zanesville, Coshocton, Marietta, Findlay, Burricksville, trying to think of the others, but it's those smaller markets.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's the time.
All
Thank you,
right.
Mark. Appreciate it.